adui aliomba anisiagasiage kama ngano, lakini Yesu aliomba mimi nisimame kwa wema wake.
Odire hare hairu ha proposal riu thutha tigukira undu thutha wa proposal akumanyota niki after proposal riu no menya gukiragwo riu sini nakuo
kedige gutheka ma
turakihikania na already
no mutirenda after marriage
no already reke nguire ni urimu muthoni to ndi muhonoku and I should have thought better. Ni urimu wakwa ni njuga newe hia wakwa ma
hia wakwa munene ma
mandiko mauga atiriri ati Ngai God does not tempt anyone.
Yes,
tutemptagwo ni tondu wa mehia makoro mehithite ngoro-ini.
So I recently listened to this story of Edith Wairimu in an interview at a Kenyan radio station, Kameme FM with Muthoni wa Kirumba. And I want us to just in this moment have a real conversation about fire. And I know you're already asking yourself, what does fire have to do with Edith's story? So first of all, there's something about fire that we all don't like. Fire burns, fire consumes, and it destroys. And recently, fire left massive destruction in California, and the state and the country is still trying to grapple with that loss, that devastating loss of life and property. And then I read 7 words recorded in the book of Mark 9:49, and they left me dumbfounded. And those words say, "For everyone will be salted with fire." So, let's start from the point that first says everyone. So not some people, not just the wicked, not just the wayward, everyone. You, me, your pastor, the worshiper, the anointed one, we will all go through fire. Then there is the part it talks about salted. But before we even think what salted with fire even means, let's look at something positive about fire. So fire isn't just for destruction. Fire refines. Fire purifies. Fire brings the best in us. And I want us to sit in this truth today through the story of Edith Wairimu, a gospel minister, a woman chosen by God, yet one who had to walk through the flames of brokenness, regret, and redemption. So, when Edith rose to fame in 2020 during COVID, she wasn't even ready for what was coming. And let's be real, some of us are praying for open doors, but are we really ready for what's behind those doors? So Edith found herself in a whirlwind, not just of success, but of personal struggles, particularly in relationships. And she was moving too fast, jumping from one relationship to another, trying to fill a void in her heart. And she says in the interview that she felt that the clock was ticking and she desired to start a family before it was too late. So she didn't stop to heal. And she didn't stop to ask God, God, is this from you? And like many of us, she learned it the hard way. I want to talk to every young man and every young woman out there listening to me. Do not be rushed by society's calculator. There is no set time for you to get married. There is no set time for you to have a child or to land that dream job or to finish school. Stop looking at other people's timelines. Walk with God. Wait on Him. And know that His time is the best. In God's eyes, delay is not denial. And to us mothers and fathers, parents, adults, grown-up, I want to talk to you for a moment. Do not rush your sons and daughters. Do not say to them things or suggest that they have overstayed in the singlehood life, because you are not God to know the right time for them. And rushing them makes them fall into situations that leave them broken for life. They get into immature relationships. Some ladies end up getting children out of wedlock and becoming single mothers in situations that could have been avoided. And some of these young people have even isolated themselves from families because every call or every family gathering, they are put in awkward situations where they have to explain why they are still single or why they still don't have a child. Have you not read that it is God who had closed Hannah's womb? And when it was time, God didn't struggle to open it. And after Samuel was born, because Hannah waited for God's perfect timing, God granted Hannah 5 more children. So give people a break and let the waiting wombs wait until it's God's time, and let the single people wait until it's God's time. We know that in the Bible there is this woman called Sarah. And Sarah is one woman who rushed ahead of time. And what happened? Ishmael was born. And because of that, there was strife and pain in that family. But when God finally fulfilled his promise in the family of Abraham in his own time, Isaac was born, the child of the covenant. So listen to this. Edith got into a relationship and was engaged within 19 days. In just under 2 months, she was planning a wedding. But according to her, something was off. They were both ministers serving in the house of God, but she let her guard down. They became sexually active, and she knew she had fallen. And so, sin doesn't just knock on the door. It creeps in when we justify small compromises. And can I be real with you? The enemy doesn't tempt you with things you don't want. He studies your desires. He knows your weaknesses. He waits until you are tired, you feel lonely, you feel desperate, and then he strikes. But you know what's worse than falling into sin? Not dealing with it. So instead of pausing to repent and heal, Edith rushed into another relationship that seemed to be the right one. A wedding was planned, and she thought, this is it. Sadly, a month before the wedding, her fiancé, without a word, cancelled it. No explanation, no warning, just silence. And can you imagine? The invitations had gone out, the plans were set, and then no wedding. And some of us know this pain too well. You invested in someone, gave them your heart, made plans, and they walked away. No closure, no apology, just a deep aching emptiness. And Edith fell into a dark depression. She shut herself away from the world for 10 good months. Let me stop here and say this. Some of you are walking around wounded, but you are not healed. You're jumping from one thing to another, relationship to relationship, job to job, ministry to ministry, without healing. And all it's doing is that it's creating a circle of pain. And you cannot build something new on a broken foundation. Take time to heal. So, we know about Joseph in the Bible. He was betrayed by his own brothers. He was left for the dead. He was sold into slavery, forgotten in prison. But listen, every betrayal, every delay, every painful season was preparing him for the palace. God never wastes pain. If you let him, he will turn your suffering into something beautiful. So, in the interview, Edith says that for 10 months, she was in isolation, crying to God for her misery and then crying for her sins. But her story didn't end in darkness. One day, in her hiding place, she cried out to God. She repented, she surrendered, and in that surrender, she found her healing. So God's grace is bigger than your worst mistake. I have said that many times. That God is not in the business of discarding broken people. He restores. When we truly surrender to him, like David, when he was broken by the sin of adultery, he says of God that sacrifices and burnt offerings you do not desire, but a broken and contrite heart you do not despise. And Edith went to God with brokenness and a repentant heart. After months of prayer and healing, Edith stood again, and she just didn't stand. She soared. She released one hit song, Nitasimama, a song of victory. And she has been releasing very powerful songs since then, ministering locally and internationally. Because that's what God does. He turns your pain into a testimony. He turns your sorrow into a song. And he turns your mourning into dancing. That is in the word. Salted with fire. So what does it even mean, salted with fire? And to understand this, we first need to talk about salt. What it does, and what it represents, and why Jesus used it in that particular context. So as we know that salt is a powerful substance, we use it daily, and in the ancient world, salt was not just for flavor, it had also had very many other critical purposes. So it was used for preservation, it was used for purification, for sacrifice. In the Old Testament, every sacrifice offered to God had to be sprinkled with salt, and it was used and still is used for flavor. And so Jesus didn't say everyone will be salted with salt. He said everyone will be salted with fire, and that's deep. So you ask, why fire? Because fire refines. Fire is used to purify metals, to burn away the impurities and bring out the pure gold or silver underneath. And fire tests. It reveals what is strong and what is weak. Fire refines. Fire transforms. When something passes through fire, it is never the same again. So when Jesus said everyone will be salted with fire, he was saying that just as salt preserves, fire purifies. Just as salt cleanses, fire refines. And just as salt was required for sacrifices, fire prepares you and myself to be a true offering before God. So in other words, you cannot avoid fire. If you want to be used by God, if you want to be strong in faith, you must go through the fire. And so what does this mean for us? Many of us want blessings of God, but we don't want the fire that comes before the blessing. We want the elevation without purification. We want to grow in our purpose without pain. We want to have victory without having to go through battles. But let me tell you, fire is part of the process. And think about gold. Do you know that for gold to be pure, it has to pass through fire, and all the impurities have to be burned away? The higher the temperature, they say, the purer the gold. So when Jesus says you will be salted with fire, he's saying, I will refine you. I will prepare you. I will burn away everything in you that doesn't belong. So Edith Wairimu went through fire of relationships, jumping too fast, making mistakes, not healing properly. She went through the fire of heartbreak, being abandoned before her wedding. She went through the fire of isolation, 10 months of depression, questioning God, crying and asking God why. But look at what happened on the other side. She found her purpose. She grew. She found healing. And she released a testimonial song, Nitasimama. So if you look at Edith's story before the fire, you would see a woman who was uncertain, a woman who was desperate for love, and a woman who was just trying to figure things out on her own. But after the fire, she was stronger, she was wiser, she was anointed, she is refined, and she's ready for what God has in store for her. Let me ask you, are you in the fire right now? Are you wondering why things aren't working out for you? Are you tired of waiting? You've waited and waited and waited. Let me talk to somebody today. Maybe you are in the fire right now. Maybe you feel like everything is falling apart. Your relationships aren't working. Your career is at a standstill. Your faith has been tested and tested over and over again. And you are asking God, why me? God is not punishing you. God is refining you. You are being salted with fire. Will you let that fire purify you? Because there are some people who will go through fire and come out very bitter. And others go through the same fire and come out better. So which one will you be? Because here is the truth. God doesn't waste pain. If you let him, he will use everything you're going through right now to build you, to strengthen you, and to take you to your next glorious level. I want to finish with this. Let's embrace the fire. Because we are told that everyone will be salted with fire. Because this one doesn't say it's not just a matter of if you will go through the fire, but a matter of when. But when you do, when you go through that fire, trust that God is in control. Don't fight the process. Embrace it. Don't let the fire destroy you. Let it refine you. Don't run away from the fire. Stay firm and let God finish the work he started in you. Don't rush the process. Don't jump into things just because of pressure. Because when you come out of this, you will not be the same again. You will be stronger. You will be wiser. You will be ready for your calling. So hold on there. Your fire is not for destruction. It is for transformation. Don't let that pain make you bitter. Let it make you better. Just know that the fire you are in, you're just being salted. And when the fire has done its work, you will shine. You will come out pure like gold. You will come out strong and ready for your purpose. Because he says, even when you pass through the fires, you will not be consumed. God bless you. Thank you so much for watching this video to the end. I pray that you have been blessed. I pray that God will give you the strength to go through the fire, because it's just making you better and you will come out stronger. Please subscribe. Please leave a comment. Tell me, what fires are you going through? Tell me, have you been able to overcome? Do you feel strengthened? Do you feel encouraged? Let's comment. Share with your friends. Like, subscribe to my channel so that we continue receiving more of these encouraging messages. God bless you.